Hello Kita Queens and Kita Beauty Tees. I'm back at y'all with another client tutorial, and like all the other tutorials, we're just about to jump straight into this bomb look. So I'm starting this look off by cleaning my model's face, and to clean her face I'm using some witch hazel on a cotton pad. Next I'm just going to proceed to doing her eyebrows, and to outline them I'm using my Nicka K brow pencil, and it's in the shade black. If you are a frequent viewer of my channel, then you know when I'm doing brows, I like to extend the front of them just a little bit more. I like to make sure it kind of touches the edge of their nose. I don't do this for all clients, but majority of the clients that I have, I do like to do this step. And now that you see I have one brow nice and outlined, I'm just going to go ahead and outline the other one. And once I feel like I have them as even as possible, I'm going to begin filling them in, starting at the back and working my way to the front. Normally when I'm filling in the brows, I like to take a lighter eyebrow pencil, but as y'all can see, my client has beautiful rich chocolate skin, so for this portion of her brow I'm just going to stick to the shade black. And as you can see, I'm filling her brows in, but I'm also making sure I brush them out as I go, just so my product doesn't be too harsh. To shade in the front of her brows, I'm taking another Nicka K eyebrow pencil, and this one is in the shade dark brown. To clean up her brows, I'm actually going in with 3 different concealer shades. 2 are from RK by Kiss and 1 is from Me NewYork. You can find all of the following at your local beauty supply store, but first I'm taking the lightest shade, which is Fawn, and I'm using it to clean up underneath her arch. Next, I'm going to be taking the second darkest concealer shade, which is Toast, and I'm using it to clean up underneath her brow. Last but not least, I'm taking the shade Espresso, and I mixed it with a little bit of the shade Toast just to lighten it up a little bit more, and I'm using this mixture to clean up the top of her eyebrows. Now that I have this brow nice and clean, I'm just going to take a buffing brush and use it to buff out the concealers. I'm going to go ahead and repeat the same process on the other side, starting from lightest to darkest. I'm going back in with that eyebrow pencil and I'm using it to fill in her tail just because I took a little too much off. So this is what the eyebrows are looking like now that they're nice and filled in. I'm taking my Dermablend translucent powder and I'm using it to lighten up the front of her brows, and I'm also going to gently pat it around the concealer just to set it in place. For an eyeshadow base, I'm using my Bperfect eyeshadow primer. I went ahead and applied it all over her lids. Now I'm just taking that same buffing brush that I used to buff out her eyebrows, and I'm using it to buff out this product. To start this look off, I'm taking a dark brown eyeshadow from my Jaclyn Hill x Morphe palette, and I'm just packing it on the outer edge of her eye. Now I'm taking the brown shade from the Juvias Zulu palette, and I'm just using it to blend out the edges of the first color that we use. So I'm just tapping this on top of the first shade using this fluffy blending brush. Now I'm just going to repeat the same thing on the other eye, and you want to make sure when you're doing this that you keep these eyeshadows on the outer edge of the eye, okay? Normally when I'm doing a cut crease, I drag them all the way up towards the front of the eyebrow, but for this eyeshadow shape, you want to make sure to keep it underneath the arch. Before I move on, I'm going back in with that dark brown eyeshadow, and I'm using it to help me blend out the edges. So starting with the lid shades, I'm taking this very vibrant orange eyeshadow, and I'm applying this to the edge of the dark brown shade that we use. All of the lid shades that I went in with are from my Bperfect Carnival XL palette. So just in case you have that palette, I will make sure I include the shade names in the description box below. But before I move on, I'm going in with my blending brush, and I'm using it to clean up the edge a little bit just to blend everything in together. Now I'm taking a little bit more of that dark brown and I'm applying it to the edge to further blend it out. The next shade I'm going in with is this peach shade. In the palette it looks peach, but on the eyes it looks like a light pink. But I'm just applying this in front of the orange shade that we used. For the last lid shade, I'm using this matte white eyeshadow, and I'm just pressing this at the front of her eyes. To give this look a little razzle dazzle, I'm taking this pigment from Ashley Lee Cosmetics. It's in the shade Silver Milky Way, and I'm just going to be applying this at the front of her eyeshadow. I really focused it more at the front, but then I ended up patting a little bit of the extra pigment on some of the pink eyeshadow. I decided to line her eyes. So to line her eyes, I'm using my Wet n Wild black liquid liner, and I'm just doing a thin black wing. I'm trying to keep it as thin as possible because I don't want it to cover up too much of the eyeshadow. And as y'all saw by the beginning of the tutorial, I did decide to do an accent line on top of it. To do the accent line, I decided to go in with these two water activated liners from the makeupplug.co on Instagram. And y'all, these are my favorite liners. They don't crack whatsoever. But as y'all can see, first I'm taking the pink shade and I'm just starting at the halfway mark and then working my way up towards the inner portions of her eye. I'm making sure I move slow with this step just because I want it to be as neat as possible. You can always clean it up with the black liner if you mess up, but I don't want to mess up too much. So now I'm taking the violet one and I'm using it to do an accent line on the rest of the wing, and now we have this nice ombre accent line, period. I'm going back in with my Wet n Wild black liquid liner and I'm using it to clean up my accent line. Okay, so you can really leave the eyeshadow like this, but y'all know lately I've been in the mood to do something extra dramatic, and I have been. So I decided to glue 3 rhinestones over the pigment that we use just to make it pop a little bit more. So as y'all can see, I just made little dots with the adhesive, and now I'm just placing the stones right on top. Moving on to the face, I'm taking my Pond's moisturizer and I'm using this to hydrate her skin. I like to apply with a brush first just to make sure I apply a generous amount. Then once I have it all on her skin, I'm going to go in and press it into her face using my Real Technique sponge. I'm taking my calamine lotion and I'm using it as a mattifying primer. First, I'm going to apply it to the areas of her face that typically create the most oil. Then I'm going to take my sponge and I'm going to use it to thin out the product a little bit more, but apply it more evenly across her face at the same time. For her foundation, I'm going to be taking these 2 shades of my Fit Me foundation. And first, I'm going in with the darkest shade, which is Java. And I'm applying it around the perimeter of her face. And once I have that on, I'm going to take the other shade, which is Nutmeg, and just apply it in the inner portions of her face. To blend these 2 shades together, I'm pressing them in using my foundation brush. I already did a video with this brush in it and all the details where I got it from, but a lot of y'all still keep asking me where I purchased this brush from. Y'all, I purchased this brush from AliExpress. I'll try to remember to include the link in the description box down below for anybody that's interested, because this is my all-time favorite tool to use on the face. But anyway, now I'm just going in and I'm highlighting her face. And to highlight her face, I use my Arcade by Kiss concealer in the shade Toast. To blend out the concealer, I'm going in with the same brush that I used to blend out the foundation, just to make sure everything is as seamless as possible. Y'all, when it comes to face makeup, I like for everything to be smooth and very, very natural. Even though I may go in with like 5 different products, I like for it to look as seamless as possible, but for some reason I love the eyes to be extra dramatic. So yeah, that's why I do that. I'm going to let the concealer sit under her eyes a little bit longer, and I'm just going to go ahead and contour. To contour her face, I'm using my Juvias Place foundation stick, and it's in the shade Congo. To blend out her contour, I'm using the same brush that I used to blend out her foundation and her concealer. I'm taking a little bit more of that contour stick on an eyeshadow brush, and I'm using it to sculpt out her nose. I normally leave this portion of the tutorial out just because when I do this, I like to stand right in front of my clients, but today I guess I did it from the side, okay, so y'all can see. But now I'm just blending out the concealer under her eyes, and to do this, I like to use a damp Real Technique sponge. To set the concealer in place, I'm using my Fit Me pressed powder, and it's in the shade Toffee. To set the contoured areas of her face, I use my Black Radiance contour kit, and this one is in the shade Dark Deep. I'm taking my Black Radiance pressed powder in the shade Black Coffee, and I'm using it to set the contour around her nose. It's time to do her under eyes, and I decided to keep it very simple for this look because as y'all can see, it's already pretty dramatic. So I'm just lining her waterline using my black gel liner, and I'm taking it on a Q-tip just because it makes it a whole lot easier to apply. For her lashes, I went in with some big blinks, okay? Because y'all know every time my girl's on my channel, I gotta give her some big blinks, like it's only right. So I'm taking some 25mm lashes, and I cut them to fit her eyes off camera, and now I'm just gluing them on. I'm taking this champagne colored eyeshadow, and I'm using it to highlight the tip and the bridge of her nose, and I also applied it to her face. Yes, girl, as you can see, we are coming together, period. So last but not least, it's time to do these lips, and I'm taking my LA Colors dark brown eyebrow pencil, and I'm using it to line her lips. And for the center of her lips, I'm going to be going in with some lip gloss from Absolute New York, and it's in the color Natural. And I'm taking an eyeshadow brush and I'm using it to help me blend the lip gloss into the liner. Went ahead and applied a clear gloss on top because y'all know whenever I'm doing a look, the lip just has to be extra glossy, okay? It's not enough for it to be a little glossy. It has to be extra glossy. So I'm taking the clear gloss and just applying it all over her lips. Then I'm going to have her pat them together just to further blend everything out. Now I'm just going back in, make sure everything is straight. And once I do all that, I'm going to spray her face with some setting spray. Now I'm going in with my Bougie Girl fan and just fanning the spray in place. And once I'm done with that, that'll basically be the finished look, and we'll be getting into the grand reveal.
Perfect. Ready to see?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna have to find something to do.
Something to do.
Something.
Cause period.
I like this.
Okay, queens, it's the end of this tutorial. As y'all can see, it was another success. I think this look came out so beautiful. I hope you all enjoyed. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe if you did. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram. A link will be in the description box down below. Bye bye, queens.